Hey folks, welcome back to the Jimmy channel. So today we're going to start the install of what they call the CoolFlow fan for the Harley. I've got a 2015 Ultra Limited. Here's the part number that ends in 152. So this fan sits like right underneath your right thigh on that bike. The idea, try to get that heat away from that pipe and that back cylinder that roasts your right leg in warm temperatures. And here's the kit. Comes with the accessory harness, the buttons that you need for the control there at the dash area, the fan itself. It does also come with a harness if you're doing a Road King, and just some nuts and bolts and ties instructions. So I'll review on the bike where this is going to go, and then we'll get into it. All right, folks, here's the bike. So as I was telling you, this fan sits like underneath your right thigh. It's supposed to go like right up in here underneath. I guess they call that like a plastic deflector. So to get at it, we're going to have to take off the side bags and the side covers and go into the other side of the bike here. The accessory port should be located right up here behind this guy, by where the main fuse is. The switches, you'll notice my bike already has a switch console here. I got a set of lights, so I won't have to replace the whole bank. I'll just end up putting the new fan switch right here in this location. This is the accessory, I believe it's number 3 if you check the service manual. So that blank will come out, have a new one in there. So to do the job, I know we're going to have to take the seat off. I mentioned the bags. To bolt the thing in, I'm sure I have to take the battery out, get the stuff out from underneath there, route the cables, mount the fan, hook up the switch by taking the ignition cap off here and pulling this. So I'll show you those steps as we go. Just wanted to give you the quick overview. Be back soon. Okay folks, so I got the back end of the bike pretty much exposed now. So just to orientate yourself, obviously there's the battery compartment. I know it looks a little bit more intimidating than it really is. This is what happened when you add a bunch of accessories to these bikes, but a lot of it's just some cabling and stuff I'll have to just move out because I got a detachable backrest and lights and all sorts of stuff on these things. So underneath the left side cover, you can see this okay, right where the main fuse is, right? That 50 amp fuse, will be pulling that. And actually, if I turn this, luckily I put those cool LED lights on a couple years ago, get you a little bit more visibility. Behind this left side cover, there's a bunch of stuff in here that's just gonna have to move you out of the way here. I have on this bike one of those alarm beepers. That's what that is. I did that some years ago. And I've also got one of the fuel packs, so I can, program my own tuning into it. And I let that run on the bike all the time and use the app, which is up in one of my videos. If you haven't seen that, it's worth checking out. But anyway, so what I want to show you in here, this is the diagnostic port right here, up underneath, if you can see that. And I've got that fuel pack plugged into it. Right above that, I'm going to have to move this thing anyway. The one right above it, right here, that's going to be that accessory port that we're going to pop out of here, and ultimately where this thing's going to plug into. If I can get it out of here for you, I'll have to work that out. And I'm going to reroute the wires somehow anywhere to plug that fan into that, and then that'll be the one that goes on up and ultimately gets to that switch we're going to install. So to prep this thing, I'm going to take all this stuff out, remove the battery. Then I'm going to pull out that accessory harness, trying to figure out how I'm going to route the thing in and plug it in. And then I got to obviously install the fan, remount that other side, this thing here that's on the other side here. I think I showed you that right here. That's where it's going to go. It's going to sit right in here. So let me go ahead and get that battery and stuff taken out of here, and I'll show you how that works. Okay folks, like I told you, it looks a lot worse than it is. So I got the battery out and all the miscellaneous stuff that's around it. Believe it or not, all that stuff will fit back in there nice when I'm said and done. But so down here on that left side behind that service panel, I wanted just to point back out. So it's set right here. Here is that accessory port I was talking about. And you know, we got a little wire here. So once I get the wiring harness and stuff up where I'm going to install that, I'll determine if I'm going to try to leave it up behind here, or if I got to tuck it up, you know, maybe in the battery box area. But I'll be sure to detail that once I get a little further in there. I just want to make sure you know where to find it. And I've got this other stuff on here, like I mentioned, that my fuel pack and that alarm thing in there too. So it takes up a little room up there, but I'm sure I can make it work. So I'll come back once I get to that point, and I think I'll move up here to that, getting that part squared away for the switch before I go any further. I'll be back. I'm going to take apart this dash area to show you, like I was telling you earlier, we're going to replace this blank with the accessory switch for the fan. So the way you do that, this ignition switch, you got to turn over to the unlock position, and up underneath it, you got to kind of get your fat fingers in there. There's a little release button behind it you got to push. In order to get it out there, you got to put the key in it. You push the button, turn the key, and this whole thing's going to slide around with the spring. Then from there, on the sides, you can see that, okay, there's a couple Allens on each side that's going to release this thing. It's a 5/32 Allen, so I'll just pop that thing off, screw those out, and get this disconnected here. Obviously, there's an electrical connection behind here, so when I take it out, I'll be careful just to disconnect the electrical, so I'll have just the switch exposed, and then I can replace this blank with the actual switch we're going to use for the fan. All right, I'll be right back. Just thought I'd show you. Here's that little button I was pushing. Let me get away from it so you can see it. That right there by my index finger. So all I did was push that as I rotated the key, and the whole thing just comes right on out of there, which will give me enough clearance to be able to get this thing on off of here without a problem. Okay, so I took those two Allen screws off either side. I'm only working on the left side of the bike here. Here's that connector I was talking about that sits right there on the back side of this. I just turned the handlebars all the way to the right, pivoted this thing up after I disconnected this. The one that's on the other side, which is just a blank for me, I'm not even going to disconnect it. All I have to do is hit those couple torques that you see there, pull this switch out, and pop in that new accessory switch on the right hand side. So let me pull it out and I'll show you the switch. Okay, I'm over here on the bed of the truck. Not as it hold the accessories for the bike, it does a good job holding deer too. So anyway, that's just another side angle. Anyways, we pulled this switch out like I was talking about on the back side of that dash area, and you know, this is the existing one we have in place for our fog lamps, and this is the one we're going to replace. One thing I thought I'd note, since we're here on the bench, before I pop this thing out here. So here's all those pieces I showed you at the beginning of the video, right? So this kit comes with a bunch of stuff. Now, hindsight 2020, I'm not so sure it wouldn't have been a less expensive option just to buy the individual pieces. Specifically, obviously, you know you need the fan. This is the non-Road King harness that I know that I need. And I'm going to need to put one switch in here. This kit actually comes with two, which is nice, but I only need one of them. It gives me an extra blank, which I'll have an extra blank once I pull this one out of here. It also gives me the entire switch bank, which I already have one, and it's very nice. I guess if I add any more stuff, I'll have this to put to the right side. I don't think they're directional, meaning this could probably go on left or right. Doesn't say anything. We got the part number there. Doesn't say that it's for one side or the other. So I get you to read that label. Just says it's a dash panel base, and of course it came with this Road King harness, which I don't have a Road King, so I'm definitely not going to need that. If anybody needs one, reach out to me. I'll make you an offer that you can't refuse. Anyway, so back to this thingy. I didn't look at the service manual, but I'm assuming the way this works is this is the left side of the bike. This has got to be auxiliary 1. This is probably 2. This is 3. Unos, dos, tres. And if you look at this harness, this is when I showed you, we're going to plug this into that accessory port that we're going to snake somewhere. And on this pigtail, it actually has the relay incorporated into it, as well as the ACC. Get this so you can read it. See that ACC03 label on there? This is the part that's going to plug into the fan. And it gives you a pigtail for ACC02, which is this guy right here. They're all capped off, but the idea being is you can get extra power from this port, and you could, you know, hook this up to, say, heated seats or anything else you wanted. And I assume, since this is ACC02, it would harness on back to the middle port here, this middle switch, which we're not going to replace. That's kind of how that all works, with the idea that if you wanted to keep adding stuff, you don't have to get an additional harness. There is a harness on the right-hand side too. I haven't traced that through the wiring schematic to see where that goes. I've got nothing in my bike on that, but I'm sure it's probably the same kind of deal. It's got to be located someplace where you can tap into that thing. Let me show you how to get these things out of here. All it is, this little clip, it just slides out about 1/4 of an inch. I need to put the phone down because I only got 2 hands, and I'll show you. One sec. I just pulled that out with a screwdriver, if you can see that okay. This comes out about 1/4 inch or so, and then this thing should just pop on out of there. So I'm going to put the new one in, push this back in, and we can put this back together, hook the wiring harness to it, and that'll give us our on-off capability from the dash. Button that back together and start the rest of the install. We'll be back again. Okay, that's that. Like I said, probably the hardest part about that job is getting this connector off. If like I said, I turn the handlebars all the way to the right, so you kind of have access there. You can wiggle that thing out of there, pull the plug, and just rotate it out enough to just get to that switch bank. If you had to get both sides, you just have to take that side off the electrical connection, probably turn it right, turn it left, and then just slide the thing out of there. Maybe put something here just so you don't scratch it up. It's plastic, but never hurts. But looks good. Should be pretty easy to go from there. So let's move to the back side and get this this rear fairing piece off, and look how we're going to get this particular fan mounted in here. It's over here on the right hand side of the bike. So next step is going to be to take this on off of here. I got to see, I think there's just a couple bolts up underneath there, and then figure out how I'm going to wire that thing back to that accessory panel, get it buttoned up. So I'll come back once I figure out how to get this off. Okay, so we're to the side of the bike where we're going to put this fan, and I think I told you this fairing piece we got to take on out of our way. So up underneath there, there's a 7/16 bolt that's holding that on. Just use a regular 1/4 inch socket and ratchet to take that out. And then there's a second one, probably hard to see, but it's up under there right next to the cylinder. I had to pull out this newfangled tool. You ever seen it? It's called the box wrench. I think I used this last on one of my 10-speed bikes, but needed to get it up in there behind the head just to loosen that thing enough so I can kind of pivot it out. The fan's gonna sit, looks like there's a brass screwed in threaded hole that was currently holding that bolt, and it looks like I need to spin that out and use that hole and the one on the diagonal that'll match up to this fan here, and it'll slide on in there. And then we've got some hardware we just attach here to hold it on the back side there where we took the battery out. And obviously there's that electrical connection we were talking about that'll go to that ACC3, which corresponds to the newly installed switch that we just put in. So let me back that brass or copper thing out of there and see if we can get this fan up in there and get some nuts and washers on it. Wishful thinking on that being a screw out deal. So it's one of those press fittings. So it's got a little flange on it on this side. So I'm just gonna have to take like my little grinding wheel and pop off this edge and pop it out to expose the hole. I'm not scared. Okay, that's what that thing looks like when you just pound it out of there. I just used the little grinding tool, this on my drill, just to take the very edge off the one side. And then I was just able to take a punch. It used to sit right there. I just punched it on through. Exposed a little bit of paint here. I think I'm going to touch this up because I don't want anything rust in there, but I'll do that before I put the fan in. But it'll just slide right in that hole in the one diagonal of it right here. Alrighty. Okay folks, so I've got that touched up different color. I'm not going to tell anybody. So this thing, this fan, it's got a couple spacers on it. Just wanted to show you this. So you can see you got two spacers that goes on what they call the inboard or inside portion, and then one that goes on the outside. And the idea being here is that this thing's gonna, that outboard one, this one here, is actually gonna go and hold that deflector on where I punch that thing out. It's gonna slip in those two holes, and then right here, back here, like towards the battery compartment, if you can see those holes, that's where they're going. We're gonna put a couple washers, a couple of these 11mm, looks like they're locking nuts, and we'll just go ahead and cinch that thing up there, and that'll be the position of it. And then we just got to figure out how we're going to wire it up. All right, I'll be back. Okay, so there's the physical install of it. Like I said, just those couple spacers and bushings. It's the bottom one's holding that deflector on. I had to tighten that one back up here with that box wrench, that's 7/16. On the back side here in the battery compartment, if you can see, those are the shiny new ones in there. Those are the two holding the thing there with a couple lock nuts and washers. That thing's solid as can be. It doesn't touch anything. It's kind of just floating in there. So there's clearance up underneath it. The idea being it's going to take all this hot air from this back cylinder and this exhaust here into the fan and blow it downward up underneath the bike, get it off your leg. So let me just go ahead and figure out how I'm going to get this wired, buttoned up into the battery compartment, get it hooked up and test her out and make sure she's working okay. I'll be back. Okay folks, so for wiring this thing, here's the operator side. You can see I've got that wire kind of sticking right up there behind that spark plug wire there, and I've got a hole right there in the frame I can wire tie it to. So I snaked it up back here into the left side of the battery box. Here's the connection off the fan, right? So, as I told you earlier, we have the accessory plug here. Here's the harness that came with the kit. Plugs into the accessory. It's got a relay on it. Here's the plug that we need to marry with this one to power the fan. And it's got that accessory 2, which is another powered lead in case you want to put anything else. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do with this thing, it looks like I can almost leave this connection right here where it belongs. I've taken off the screws holding on to this, holding the fuse box on. I'm going to get this tie off of this main harness just so I can get behind it. I'm going to tuck this relay and the whole deal right up behind there and bring it up the back side, I'd say like the left side of the battery, so it can all kind of sit right here. Then I'll go ahead and wire tie it in just so it doesn't move around and be able to button this back up. So I think that's my best plan. I'll put it together. If it works, I'll show you the finished result. Alright, so I think that works just pretty much as planned. So there's the buttoned up fuse box. You can see that new accessory plug comes right out over here. I've got it just cable tied to the frame. Goes up the back side of the box, and I've bolted these back in. Comes out this top side left of the battery compartment. There's that relay and that accessory 2 plug, and here's the connection made for the fan. And as I mentioned down here underneath, I just went ahead and cable tied that to the frame. That's the one coming off the fan itself. So I should be able to take these things, and I'm just going to button them up back into this corner. Then I got to put the battery back in and get the rest of that mess, I guess we'd call it. There's a method to the madness, but actually looks like that's the spot for it, right here, upper left of the battery compartment. Be able to tuck it on in there. I might just wire tie a couple of these things together. These are my LED lights, just to kind of stick them together, keep them going from all over the place, and then we'll hook it back up and see if it works. Okay, so I got the battery all connected. I'm not going to button up till I test it, so got it all hooked up there, nothing buttoned up, so let's see what happens. So turn it on, my beeper's still beeping. Give it a second to fire up here. That's just a little CD thing. These are my LED lights. It's a separate switch. So that's all good. So turn it on. All you have to do is hit the button. Oh yeah, she's running. Yeah, she's really moving some air here. She's a little demonstration here. Let's see this. That's a pretty powerful little fan in there. You see it's really sucking up on the top side, so it sucks that way and blows that way. It sucks that way and blows that way. So that's all she wrote. It's a manual deal, so when you're riding, when you feel like you're heating up, you just hit the button, turn it on, turn it off, right? Shuts off. So I'll go ahead and I'll button up the rest. Anytime you do this kind of work, after I get everything buttoned back together, I'll do a complete safety check on the bike, make sure all my lights are good. Usually grab someone to help me, I'll work the brake lights, make sure the strobes and everything are still working, just in case something got disconnected as you're taking apart the rat's nest. But should be pretty good. Like I say, I'll button this stuff up and I'll show you one last thing once I get it all together, so you can see it actually doesn't look as bad as you think it might. All right, stay tuned. All right, just to show you the finished battery compartment. Like I said, I know there's a ton of stuff in there. I got quite a few accessories on this bike, but everything buttons up nice behind the side panel there. No problems at all making that work. That wiring's super easy. At the end of the day, I just got one more little cluster of stuff right here, sitting there in that top left-hand quadrant where the battery goes. Everything else is kind of in its place. I'll just make one more mention. This is an ultra limited, so I've got the removable tour pack, hence this extra harness deal here that I only have to utilize when I put the tour pack on. Otherwise, that just sits dormant, and I'm utilizing, the extra inset lights there, and I've got the brake lights that are on the bags, which is what these connections are here for, which those just snap back in when I put the bags back on. So, last licks here, I'll just put it back together, do that safety check, and give it a whirl. Hopefully, I'll come back one last time when it's all buttoned up and fired it up, and make sure you hear it, and we'll go. Okay, Jimmy Channel fans, so we're all buttoned up, seats back on, everything good to go. So recommendation, reading the instructions, they say you want to leave that fan off, turn it on after the bike's running. It does sound like it's a variable speed fan when it fires up. It doesn't like jolt on, but that's the recommendation. So I'll just fire it up here, let the bike cycle up. I'll let you get a listen to it. I leave my fog lights on pretty much all the time. Turn that radio down. The idea is once you're out cruising and it starts to heat up, all you got to do is go and hit the button. It fires that fan, like I showed you earlier, it's really blowing, but you struggle to even hear it over the motor, so it's not like it's going to be messing with you from a noise standpoint. So that's all she wrote. So I did the safety check, all the lights are working. Next thing will be just get on the road and let her heat up and see what it feels. I think I'll hold off completing this video until I do that, so I can give you a report and let you know how it feels. All right, signing out. I just finished the road test on this thing. Took it for about a 10-mile ride. I've got the fan running that I installed, and I'll tell you, you can really feel that heat that it pulls out of this engine area. Just looking at the temps, this is that fuel pack app I was telling you about. The internal temperature of the engine is about 230. The intake is 156. It's actually not very warm here today. It's only about 74 degrees. In case you guys don't know how you can get to that display on your Ultra, it's just that I button right here. You hit that, takes it away, hit it again, it brings it back to you. Always see what your oil pressure is and what the air temperature is outside. So my review on this immediately is very positive. The analogy I would give you is that, you know, when you pull up to a light and it's really warm outside, you can feel that heat start getting into your leg. You turn that fan on and it feels just like you're moving, and that dissipates that heat quick. So probably don't need it if it's like below 75 degrees and you're doing highway driving, but even just 40 miles an hour, stop and go kind of stuff, you can really feel a difference. So thumbs up on this product. Hopefully you enjoyed the video